Never thought the day would come when I would see two grown children I raised from birth standing in front of me, looking at strangers who claimed to be their real parents. My hand shook as I held onto the kitchen counter, my heart pounding like a drum inside my chest. 18 years ago, I had pulled those two little babies, tiny, helpless, crying, from a lonely wooden boat that drifted toward the riverbank behind my house. I had raised them as my own, fed them, clothed them, loved them with every fiber of my being. To me, they were my children. But now the doorbell had rung, and when I opened the door, there stood a man and a woman, faces filled with tears, holding out faded photographs that looked exactly like the two children I had raised. Their voices trembled when they said, "We've come for our children. They are ours." The words sliced through me like a knife. I looked back at the twins, Emily and Jacob, now tall, beautiful young adults. They stood frozen, their eyes darting between me and the strangers at the door. My lips parted, but no words came out. How could I tell them the truth? How could I risk losing them after 18 long years? And yet, what if the strangers were telling the truth? That was the moment my world turned upside down. And just as Emily stepped forward, her hand reaching toward the woman's trembling fingers, something happened that changed everything again. But before I tell you what happened next, let me take you back to the very beginning. My name is Martha Williams. I am 72 years old, speaking to you from a small, quiet town in Mississippi, USA. Before I go any further with this story, please do me a little favor. If you're listening right now, don't forget to subscribe, like, and click the notification button so you never miss the next part of this story. I promise you, it will keep you on the edge of your seat. And also, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'd love to know which part of the country or the world you're in. Now let's go back 18 years earlier to the night everything began. It was a stormy evening in July. The rain came down so hard it felt like the heavens had burst open, and the thunder rolled loud enough to rattle the windows of my little wooden house by the river. I had lived alone ever since my husband, Henry, passed away years before. Life had grown quiet, sometimes too quiet. My children had all moved away, busy with their own families. That night, I was knitting in my rocking chair when I heard something strange outside. At first, I thought it was just the wind pushing against the shutters, but then I heard it again, a faint cry. Not the cry of an animal, but the desperate wail of a baby. My heart nearly stopped. I grabbed my lantern and stepped out into the rain. The river behind my house was swollen and wild, rushing with mud and broken branches. And then through the sheets of rain I saw it. A small wooden boat, no bigger than a bathtub, bumping against the reeds. And inside that boat, two babies. They were wrapped in thin cloths soaked to the bone, their tiny fists clenched, their cries piercing the storm. I gasped so hard my chest ached. Who could leave two innocent babies like this? Abandoned, drifting in the night, left to die? My hands trembled as I lifted them out of the boat, one at a time. They were so light, so fragile, their faces red from crying. I pressed them close against my chest, whispering, "Sure, you're safe now, you're safe." That was the moment that changed my life forever. From that night on, I became their mother. I named the girl Emily, after my grandmother, and the boy Jacob, after Henry's father. They grew up under my roof, and I poured into them all the love I had left in my heart. But raising two children at my age was no small thing. There were days I thought I couldn't go on. Times when there wasn't enough money, when sickness came, or when loneliness weighed me down. Yet somehow, every time I looked at their faces, I found the strength to keep going. Still, there were questions that haunted me. Where had they come from? Who had left them in that boat? And why? I never told a soul how I found them. Not the neighbors, not the church ladies, not even my grown children. It was a secret I locked deep in my heart. But secrets have a way of coming back. And mine did. 18 years later, on a bright sunny morning, when the doorbell rang and strangers claimed the children I had raised were theirs. And just as Emily reached out her hand to touch the woman who claimed to be her mother, the sound of shattering glass rang through the house. Someone had thrown a stone through the window. We all froze in shock. The sharp sound of shattering glass jolted us all. Emily screamed and Jacob jumped back, shielding his sister as shards scattered across the living room floor. My heart raced so fast I thought it might burst out of my chest. The strangers at the door gasped. The woman clutched her chest, and the man rushed forward to pull her behind him, his eyes scanning wildly outside. Someone had thrown a stone through my window. But why? And who? I ran to the broken glass, the rain of tiny shards crunching under my slippers. The stone had landed in the middle of my carpet, and tied around it with string was a crumpled piece of paper. With trembling hands, I bent down and untied it. The note inside was written in smudged black ink, the letters crooked and rushed. Keep the children away from them. They do not belong here. Danger follows. I froze, the words burning into my mind. My eyes darted toward the strangers standing in my living room. Their faces were pale as if they had seen this warning before. Who did this? I demanded, my voice shaking with both fear and fury. What danger? What's going on here? The man's jaw clenched. He reached out, almost as if he wanted to take the paper from me, but then pulled his hand back. Please, he said quietly. You wouldn't understand. We need to explain everything. But first, can we sit down? Jacob looked at me, his face pale but his voice firm. Grandma, what's happening? Who are these people? Oh, how my heart broke at that moment. To him, to Emily, I was the only parent they had ever known. And now, in one sudden day, their world was being torn apart. I swallowed hard and forced myself to be calm. Everyone sit down, I said, pointing to the couch. We're going to talk. And nobody's leaving until I have answers. We all sat in silence, the air thick with tension. The storm outside had passed, but inside my house, a different storm was brewing. The woman wiped her tears and finally spoke. Her voice shook. My name is Anna, and this is my husband, Daniel. We are the real parents of Emily and Jacob. She paused, her lips quivering before she added. We lost them 18 years ago. My breath caught in my throat. Lost them? What did that mean? Daniel leaned forward, his eyes heavy with sorrow. It wasn't our choice. They were taken from us. The room went still. Taken. I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. He nodded. Kidnapped. I gasped so loud Emily flinched. Jacob's hands clenched into fists. You expect me to believe that? I snapped, though inside, my heart was trembling. 2 babies, abandoned in a boat, in the middle of a storm? That doesn't sound like kidnapping to me. That sounds like someone wanted to get rid of them. Anna burst into tears, covering her face. Daniel wrapped his arm around her and looked at me with a pain so deep. I felt my own anger falter. Please, he said softly. We searched for them for years. We never stopped. And now we've finally found them. Emily turned to me, her eyes wide and wet. Grandma, is it true? Did you know? My throat tightened. The room swirled around me. How could I answer? How could I explain that I had found them alone, abandoned, without ever knowing the truth? Babies don't just appear in boats, Jacob said harshly. His voice trembled with confusion. Someone put us there. Someone wanted us there. Grandma, who? I opened my mouth to speak, but before a single word left my lips, there was a loud knock at the door. Everyone jumped. Daniel's face drained of color. He whispered, "They've found us." The knock was slow and heavy, echoing through the house like a drumbeat. Boom! 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 Everyone froze. Emily clutched my arm, her nails digging into my skin. Jacob's eyes darted toward the door like a cornered animal. Daniel and Anna exchanged a quick glance, fear flickering across their faces. Who is it? I whispered, my voice barely audible. Daniel shook his head. Don't answer. Please don't. The knocking came again, louder this time. Whoever it was, they weren't going away. I gathered every ounce of courage I had and crept toward the door. My old wooden floor creaked beneath my steps, betraying me with every sound. My hand hovered above the knob when a deep voice rumbled from the other side. We know they're inside. Open the door. My breath caught in my throat. The voice was low, stern, and commanding. Whoever it was, they weren't here for a friendly visit. Emily whimpered, and Jacob instinctively pulled her behind him. Grandma, he whispered, don't open it. Daniel stood, his fists clenched at his sides. His face had gone pale, but his eyes blazed with determination. They've found us, he repeated, his voice thick with dread. We have to leave. Now. What are you talking about? I hissed. anger and fear boiling in me at once. Who are they? And why are they here? Before he could answer, the knocking turned violent. The door rattled in its frame as if someone was trying to break it down. I grabbed the nearest thing I could find, an old iron poker from the fireplace, and held it in trembling hands. "You're not leaving this house," I said firmly, though my voice cracked. "Not until I know the truth." Anna sobbed quietly, clutching her chest. "Martha, please, if you love them, if you've cared for them all these years, you must trust us. Their lives are in danger." The words pierced me like ice. Danger? After 18 years of peace. Now danger was suddenly at my door? "Open the door, old woman." The voice outside bellowed, followed by a thunderous kick that shook the hinges. Emily cried out, and Jacob grabbed her hand. His face twisted with confusion and anger. "Grandma, what's happening? What danger? Who are these people?" I looked at him, my heart breaking. The children I had raised were caught in a storm they didn't understand, and truth be told, I didn't either. The next moment the door cracked, wood splintered near the hinges, and the strangers outside began forcing their way in. Panic surged through me. "Run!" Daniel shouted. "We have to get out through the back." We all bolted toward the kitchen, stumbling over broken glass and the chaos of the room. My heart pounded as I pushed Emily and Jacob ahead of me, Daniel and Anna close behind. I could hear the door finally bursting open, boots pounding against the floorboards as the intruders stormed in. We reached the back door, and Daniel yanked it open. The night air hit us like a slap, cold and heavy. The yard stretched dark before us, the tall grass whispering in the wind. "Go," Daniel urged. I grabbed Emily's hand, my breath ragged. "Stay close, don't let go." We ran into the night, hearts racing, the shouts of strangers echoing behind us. My legs, old and weak, burned with every step, but fear gave me strength I didn't know I had. Suddenly, headlights flashed in the distance. A black car roared down the dirt road, tires screeching as it skidded to a stop right in front of us, blocking our path. The doors flung open. Men in dark coats stepped out, their faces shadowed, their movements sharp and deliberate. Daniel stopped dead in his tracks, his chest heaving. "It's them," he whispered hoarsely. "We're too late." The car's headlights blinded us, casting long shadows across the wet grass. My heart hammered against my ribs, and for a moment, the world seemed to slow down. The men stepped out, 3 of them, their boots sinking into the mud. They wore black coats that brushed their knees and wide-brimmed hats that hid most of their faces. The way they moved, steady, unhurried, like predators circling prey, sent a chill crawling up my spine. Daniel's voice was a sharp whisper. "Stay behind me." Emily clung to my arm so tightly it hurt. Jacob's fists clenched, his jaw set like he was ready to fight, though he was just a boy, my boy. The tallest man stepped forward, his shoes crunching on the gravel. His voice was calm, almost polite, but there was something terrifying in its calmness. "You have something that doesn't belong to you. Hand them over." My stomach dropped. He wasn't talking about money or objects or anything else. He was talking about Emily and Jacob. Anna let out a sob, falling to her knees. "Please, not again," she cried, her voice breaking. "Not again." Daniel spread his arms, blocking the men from stepping closer. His voice was firm, steady, almost like steel. "You're not taking them. Not this time." The man tilted his head, almost amused. "You think you can stop us? After all these years?" The words made my blood run cold. After all these years. This wasn't the first time. Emily looked up at me, her eyes wide with terror. "Grandma," she whispered. "What's happening? Why do they want us?" I wanted to protect her, to shield her from everything, but how could I answer when I didn't know myself? My lips trembled, but no words came. The men began to spread out, circling us. Their movements were slow, deliberate, like wolves cornering sheep. My grip on Emily tightened and Jacob stepped closer, his face pale but defiant. Then Daniel shouted, "Run!" Everything exploded into chaos. We darted toward the trees, our feet sinking into the wet earth. Branches slapped against my face, my old bones screaming with every step. Behind us, the men shouted, their heavy boots thundering across the ground. Emily stumbled and I yanked her back up. "Keep going." I panted, my chest burning. Jacob grabbed her other arm, helping me pull her forward. Daniel and Anna stayed behind us, shouting, throwing stones, anything to slow the pursuers down. For a moment it seemed like we might escape. The forest grew thicker, darker, the headlights fading behind us. My lungs burned, my knees wobbled, but I forced myself onward. Then crack. A gunshot split the night. Emily screamed and I nearly collapsed. My ears rang, my heart felt like it had stopped. Daniel shouted, "Keep running." His voice was raw, desperate. We pushed forward, crashing through the undergrowth. My vision blurred from tears, but I wouldn't stop. Not until I knew the children were safe. Finally, we reached an old shed at the edge of the woods, its wooden walls sagging, its roof half collapsed. We ducked inside, gasping for breath, our bodies trembling from the chase. The shed was dark and smelled of mildew. Cobwebs clung to the corners, and the floor was littered with rusted tools. I pressed my back against the wall, clutching Emily close, listening to the pounding of my heart. Jacob leaned against the door, trying to catch his breath. "Grandma, who are they? Why are they after us?" I shook my head, still breathless. "I don't know, sweetheart. I don't know." But Daniel and Anna knew. Their faces were pale, their bodies tense, their eyes fixed on the door as though they expected it to burst open any moment. Then Daniel finally spoke, his voice low and heavy. "They've found us because the children are the key to everything." My stomach twisted. The key to what? I demanded. Before he could answer, the shed door shook violently. Someone was outside, rattling the handle. We all froze. The voice of the tall man seeped through the cracks in the wood. Calm but chilling. "You can't hide them forever. They were never yours." The wooden door rattled again, harder this time, the hinges groaning under the pressure. Dust fell from the ceiling beams above us, and Emily whimpered against my shoulder. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Don't let them take us, Grandma." My arms tightened around her trembling body. "They'll have to go through me first," I said, though inside my heart was quivering like a leaf in the wind. Daniel moved forward, pressing his back against the door, his muscles straining as the men outside pushed harder. "We don't have much time," he muttered. His eyes darted to the dark corners of the shed, searching desperately for something, anything to help us. Anna knelt beside the twins, her tears streaking through the dirt on her face. "I won't lose you again," she whispered fiercely. "Not again." Jacob's fists clenched at his sides. He wasn't crying, but the fear in his eyes betrayed him. "Tell us the truth," he demanded, his voice cracking. "What do they want with us? Why are they calling us theirs?" Anna looked at Daniel. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then with trembling lips she spoke. "You were taken from us because of who you are. Because of what you carry." Emily blinked. What does that mean?" Anna's voice shook. "It means you two were born into something bigger than you know. Something dangerous. And those men will never stop until they have you." Before she could explain further, the door cracked loudly, a sharp sound like lightning splitting wood. One of the boards snapped, and a hand forced its way through the gap, groping blindly for the lock. Emily screamed. Jacob grabbed an old rusted hammer from the floor and swung it with all his strength, smashing the hand. A guttural cry erupted outside, and the hand withdrew, leaving streaks of blood on the wood. Daniel shouted, "Good boy," and shoved a heavy crate in front of the door. "That'll buy us a little more time." I stared at the twins, my heart aching. They weren't just children anymore. They were standing on the edge of a truth that could shatter everything I had ever known. But I had no time to think, because suddenly the shed's back wall creaked, and then a hidden panel shifted open. We all spun around. Behind the panel was a narrow passage, barely lit by a faint glow. The air that drifted out was cold, smelling of earth and dampness. Daniel's eyes widened. "A way out," he whispered. "Quick through here." Anna gasped. "But how did you know?" "No time," he barked. "Go." One by one, we scrambled inside. The tunnel was cramped and wet, the ceiling so low we had to hunch over. I kept my hands on Emily's shoulders, urging her forward, while Jacob crawled ahead with the hammer gripped tight in his fist. Behind us, Daniel pushed Anna, his voice sharp with urgency. The pounding at the shed door grew louder. The wood was breaking, splinters flying. Any second now, they would be inside. We moved as fast as we could, our breaths echoing in the narrow walls. My knees screamed in pain, but I pushed forward. My mind spun with questions. How long had this tunnel been here? Who had built it? And why did Daniel know about it? Finally, after what felt like forever, the tunnel sloped upward and opened into a small clearing deep in the woods. Moonlight spilled across the grass, and for a brief fleeting moment, I thought we were safe. But then I saw it. At the edge of the clearing, parked silently among the trees, was another black car. Its engine was off, its lights dark, but I could see the faint glow of cigarettes through the windshield. Men were inside, waiting. We had escaped the shed, but we had run straight into another trap. The clearing was silent, except for our ragged breaths and the faint glow of cigarette tips burning inside the black car. The night air felt heavier here, pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. Emily's hand slipped into mine, trembling. "Grandma," she whispered. "They're already here." Jacob crouched low, eyes locked on the car. His grip tightened around the hammer he still carried, though I could see his hands shaking. Daniel's face turned grim. "They knew about the tunnel," he muttered. "They're always one step ahead." Anna gasped. "But how? How could they know?" Daniel didn't answer. His eyes swept the clearing, scanning the shadows for an escape. My own heart sank as I realized there was none. The woods boxed us in on three sides, and the only way forward was straight past the car. Suddenly, the car door creaked open. A man stepped out slowly, brushing ash from his coat. He wasn't like the others we had seen. He looked older, calmer, with a kind of cold confidence that made my blood run cold. "Well, well," he said smoothly, his voice echoing in the stillness. "The lost ones have finally come home." Emily clutched me tighter. Jacob's jaw set, his voice breaking as he shouted back, "We're not yours." The man only smirked, shaking his head. "Oh, but you are. You were always ours. And your grandmother." His eyes shifted to me, and for the first time that night, I felt a different kind of fear, a fear that came from being known. "She's been keeping you warm for us all these years. Isn't that right, Martha?" The sound of my name on his lips made my knees weaken. How did this stranger know me? Daniel stepped forward, his voice sharp as a blade. "Stay back." The man chuckled softly. "You think you can protect them, Daniel? You failed once. You'll fail again." Anna cried out, covering her mouth as though she had heard those words before. The man raised his hand, and two more figures slipped out of the car, dressed in the same black coats, moving like shadows. My stomach dropped. We were surrounded again. "Run," Daniel shouted, but before we could move, the man spoke once more, his voice commanding. "They can run, but they can't hide from blood. Blood always calls them back." The words echoed through the clearing like a curse. Emily started to sob. Jacob pulled her behind him, though his own face was pale. I grabbed them both, whispering, "Stay close, don't let go." Daniel reached for a branch on the ground, wielding it like a weapon. "Martha," he said quickly, his eyes never leaving the men, "get the children out. Head east, keep running until you hit the old road. Don't stop for anything." My voice cracked. "And you?" He gave a small, grim smile. "We'll hold them off." Before I could argue, the men began to advance. Daniel lunged forward, swinging the branch with all his might. The clearing erupted in chaos, shouts, the crunch of boots on grass, the sound of bodies colliding. Anna screamed, clinging to his arm as he fought. "Go," he roared at me again. I pulled the twins into the trees, my heart pounding. We stumbled through the darkness, branches whipping our faces, roots catching our feet. Behind us, the sounds of struggle grew louder. Then suddenly a cry ripped through the night. It wasn't Daniel's voice. It wasn't Anna's either. It was Emily's. I spun around in horror. My arms were empty. She was gone. My scream tore through the night, before I even realized it had left my throat. "Emily." Jacob spun around, his face pale with shock. "Where is she?" The wood swallowed my voice, offering no answer. The space beside me was empty. My sweet Emily had slipped from my grasp in the chaos, and now she was gone. I stumbled backward, frantically searching the shadows. "Emily, baby, answer me." My voice cracked, my chest heaving with terror. Jacob darted into the trees, calling for his sister. Emily! Emily, where are you? His voice grew desperate, ragged, on the edge of breaking. The night air pressed heavy around us, filled with the muffled sounds of the struggle back in the clearing. But all I could hear was the deafening silence where Emily's voice should have been. Then faintly I heard it. A cry. High-pitched. Weak. Emily's voice, carried through the trees. This way. Jacob shouted, bolting toward the sound. My old legs strained to keep up, branches tearing at my arms, roots clawing at my ankles. I stumbled, nearly falling, but forced myself onward. My heart hammered in my ears, each beat filled with the same thought. I can't lose her. Not like this. We crashed through the undergrowth until we reached a small clearing lit faintly by the moon. And there, oh God, there, stood one of the men in a black coat. His large hand clamped tightly over Emily's mouth, muffling her screams. She kicked and thrashed, her small fists pounding uselessly against his chest. Let her go! I shrieked, my voice splitting the night. The man's eyes glinted coldly as he pulled Emily closer, almost possessively. She was never yours, he growled. Jacob charged forward, hammer raised. Give her back. The man's lips curled into a cruel smile. With one swift motion he yanked Emily backward into the shadows. No! Jacob cried, lunging after them. I stumbled behind him, my lungs burning, my vision blurring with tears. But the trees swallowed them faster than we could chase. We ran, crashing through branches, tripping over roots, Jacob shouting her name again and again. My heart screamed inside me, my whole body trembling with rage and fear. At last the forest thinned, and there at the edge of a ravine, the man stood with Emily still clutched in his arms. The moonlight shone across the rocky cliffside. The river roared below, dark and violent. One wrong step, and both of them would fall. The man's voice rose above the rush of water. She belongs to us. She always has. If you want her back, he sneered, shifting her weight in his arms, then you'll have to take her. Emily's muffled cries pierced my heart. Her small hand reached out toward me, fingers shaking, pleading. And then, without warning, the man stepped closer to the edge. The roar of the river below filled my ears, drowning out everything else. My whole body shook as I stared at the man, his boots inches from the cliff's edge. Emily squirming helplessly in his grasp. Her terrified eyes locked onto mine. Grandma! She screamed, her voice finally breaking free from his hand. The sound tore my heart in two. Let her go. I cried, my knees nearly buckling. Please, she's just a child. The man's lips twisted into a cruel grin. She's more than that. She's everything. Jacob's chest heaved as he stepped forward, hammer raised, his face twisted with rage. If you hurt her, I swear I'll. Stay back, the man barked, jerking Emily closer to the edge. Her small shoes scraped against the dirt, pebbles tumbling down into the black waters below. My breath caught. One slip, one wrong move, and she would be gone forever. Please, I begged, my hands shaking as I stretched them out. If you want someone, take me. Just let her go. For a brief moment, his cold eyes flicked toward me, almost curious. You'd give yourself in her place? Yes, I cried, tears streaming down my face. Yes, I would. Just let her live. The man chuckled darkly. How noble. But it's not your blood we need. Jacob growled under his breath, stepping closer. Then take me. No. Jaco. I hissed, grabbing his arm, but he wrenched free. His love for his sister blazed in his eyes, fierce and unyielding. If it's me you want, then leave her alone. The man tilted his head, amused. The protector. Always the protector. You're brave but foolish. And then in one terrifying instant he leaned backward, pulling Emily with him toward the edge. No. I screamed, my legs giving way. Jacob lunged. With all his strength, he swung the hammer, striking the man's arm. The force made him stumble, loosening his grip just enough for Emily to slip free. She tumbled forward, landing hard on the ground near the cliff, gasping for air. But the man wasn't finished. His face twisted with fury as he grabbed Jacob instead, yanking him toward the edge. Jacob struggled, hammer still clutched in his hand, but the man's grip was like iron. My scream split the night as I stumbled toward them. "Jacob!" Emily scrambled to her feet, crying, "No! Let him go!" The man's eyes glowed in the moonlight as he hissed, "If we can't have one, we'll take the other." And with a violent jerk, he dragged Jacob toward the roaring ravine. "Jacob!" My scream tore through the night as I scrambled forward on trembling legs. My knees ached, my chest burned, but all I saw was my grandson's terrified face as the man yanked him closer and closer to the edge. The river roared below, dark and merciless, waiting to swallow them both. Jacob kicked and thrashed wildly, swinging the hammer with desperate strength. He struck the man's chest once, twice, but the blows only seemed to fuel his rage. The man's grip tightened, his knuckles white, his eyes blazing with something unearthly. Emily sobbed behind me, her voice breaking. "Grandma, do something. Please." I stumbled closer, grabbing a broken branch from the ground. My old arms trembled as I raised it high, but my heart screamed at me, "You're too slow. Too weak. You'll never reach him in time." But love made me move anyway. With every ounce of strength I had left, I swung the branch at the man's back. The wood cracked on impact, splinters flying. He grunted, staggering forward, but his grip on Jacob didn't loosen. Instead, with a terrifying roar, he dragged Jacob right to the edge and leaned back, preparing to throw him into the abyss. "No!" Emily shrieked, running forward. Before I could stop her, she hurled herself at the man, clawing at his arm with all her might. "Let him go." For the first time his grip faltered. His face twisted in pain as her nails raked down his skin. Jacob seized the moment, slamming the hammer down on his wrist. The man cried out and released him. Jacob tumbled backward onto the ground, gasping, free at last. Emily collapsed beside him, wrapping her arms around her brother, sobbing into his shoulder. Relief flooded through me so hard my legs gave out. I dropped to my knees, tears spilling down my cheeks. "Thank God," I whispered. "Thank God you're safe." But the man was not finished. He staggered upright, his face contorted with fury, his injured wrist hanging limp at his side. His dark coat billowed in the wind as he raised his other hand toward the sky. And then, I saw something that froze my blood. His palm glowed faintly in the moonlight, a strange, shimmering light pulsing from beneath his skin. Emily's sobs fell silent. Jacob's eyes widened. What is he?" Jacob whispered. The man's lips curled into a sinister smile. "You will find out soon enough. It's in you too." Before I could even react, he stepped backward, deliberately, off the edge of the cliff. We rushed forward, peering down into the darkness. But there was nothing. No esplas. No body. Just the endless roar of the river below. Emily clutched my arm, trembling. "Grandma, he's gone." Jacob shook his head, his voice shaking. "No. He didn't fall. He disappeared." The forest fell silent again, eerily quiet except for the rushing water below. My heart pounded with questions I couldn't answer. And then behind us a branch snapped. We spun around, only to see more shadows moving between the trees. More men. More black coats. And this time, there were at least 5 of them. The crunch of boots against dry leaves sent shivers through my bones. One by one, the men emerged from the darkness, their black coats glinting in the pale moonlight. 5 of them, silent, steady, their faces half hidden in shadow. Emily clung to my side, trembling so violently I could feel her heartbeat against my arm. Jacob stepped in front of us, hammer raised, though his hands shook. His voice cracked as he shouted, "Stay back!" The men didn't stop. They moved as one, like shadows sliding forward, tightening the circle around us. I felt my throat tighten. We had nowhere to run. Behind us was the cliff. In front of us, the hunters. Then one of the men spoke. His voice was deep, calm, unnervingly polite. "The girl and the boy come with us. No harm needs to come to the rest of you." My arms tightened around Emily's shoulders. Over my dead body. The man tilted his head, almost amused. "That can be arranged." Jacob's grip on the hammer wavered, but he lifted it higher. "You're not taking us," he said, his voice steadier than his shaking body. For a moment silence stretched across the clearing, heavy and suffocating. Then with no warning the men lunged. Everything erupted into chaos. Jacob swung the hammer wildly, striking one man's knee with a sickening crack. The man grunted but didn't fall. Emily screamed, clutching my arm, as I tried to shield her with my body. One of the men reached for Jacob, but I grabbed a stone from the ground and hurled it with all my strength. It struck his temple and he stumbled, cursing. "Run!" cried, but where could we run? The cliff was behind us, the men in front. Then, just as the tallest one lunged toward Emily, a blinding light cut through the trees. Headlights! An engine roared, and out of nowhere, an old pickup truck burst into the clearing, skidding to a stop between us and the men. The driver's door flew open and a figure jumped out, holding a shotgun. "Get away from them!" the voice bellowed. My heart skipped a beat. I knew that voice. It was Sheriff Collins, the same man who'd lived 3 houses down the road for 20 years, the man who came by every Christmas with pies his wife baked. "Sheriff," I gasped, my knees nearly buckling with relief. His shotgun gleamed in the moonlight as he stepped forward, his voice like thunder. "Last warning, back off." For the first time, the men hesitated. Their black eyes glinted, their faces unreadable. Slowly, almost lazily, they began to retreat into the shadows, their movements smooth and unhurried, as though they weren't fleeing but simply waiting. Within moments, they melted back into the trees, leaving only silence in their wake. I collapsed to the ground, clutching Emily and Jacob tightly, my tears soaking into their hair. Relief and terror twisted inside me all at once. The sheriff rushed forward, kneeling beside us. "Martha, what in God's name is going on out here? Who were those men?" I opened my mouth to answer. But before a word escaped, Emily let out a strangled gasp. "Grandma," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Look." I turned. There, etched into her wrist, glowing faintly in the moonlight, was a strange mark, one I had never seen before. It pulsed like a heartbeat. The sight of it froze me in place. Emily's wrist glowed faintly under the moonlight, a symbol etched into her skin that pulsed like it was alive. It wasn't a bruise, nor a cut, nor anything I had ever seen. It looked almost like fire trapped beneath her flesh, yet she didn't cry from pain. She only stared at it, wide-eyed, her lips trembling. "Grandma," she whispered. "What's happening to me?" I swallowed hard, my voice caught in my throat. I don't know, baby. I don't know." Sheriff Collins leaned closer, his shotgun still gripped tightly in one hand. His eyes narrowed, his face pale. "That's not normal." Jacob grabbed Emily's hand, holding it close, his eyes darting between us. "She's not hurt, it's just glowing." He shook his head, trying to make sense of it. How is that even possible? Daniel and Anna burst from the trees, breathless and battered from the earlier fight. Anna fell to her knees the moment she saw the mark, covering her mouth with trembling hands. "Oh God," she whispered. "It's begun." Sheriff Collins turned sharply. "What do you mean it's begun? What are you people hiding?" Daniel's face hardened, his eyes never leaving Emily's wrist. "We don't have time to explain. If they've seen it, they'll never stop now." "Seen what?" I snapped, my voice sharper than I meant. Fear clawed at me, my mind racing. What is that mark? What's happening to my granddaughter? Anna's tears fell freely as she whispered. She was born with it. Both of them were. But it was hidden until now. Jacob looked down at his own hands, panic flashing across his face. "Both of us." Anna nodded, her lips quivering. "The mark is a sign. A legacy you carry." It was only a matter of time before it revealed itself. Emily shook her head furiously, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I don't want this. I don't want any of this." Her glowing wrist flickered brighter as her emotions surged, lighting up the clearing with a faint, eerie glow. The sight made the hair on my arms stand on end. Sheriff Collins backed away a step, his voice trembling now. "Martha, what are these kids?" "They're my grandchildren," I snapped, pulling Emily close to me. "That's all that matters." But even as I said it, doubt gnawed at my heart. The forest fell silent again, but it wasn't the peaceful kind of silence. It was heavy, expectant, like the trees themselves were holding their breath. Then faintly from deep within the woods a voice echoed, "We'll be back for them." We all froze. The sheriff swung his shotgun toward the trees, but there was nothing, only shadows. Emily buried her face against me, sobbing. Jacob held her other hand, his own face pale but determined. Daniel crouched down, his voice urgent. We can't stay here. It's no longer safe. If you want them alive, we have to leave. Now. Leave? I whispered, shaking my head. Where? Where could we possibly go? Daniel's eyes met mine, cold and certain. There's only one place left. The place where it all began. Before I could ask what he meant, the sheriff's radio crackled to life. Static buzzed, followed by a distorted voice. Sheriff Collins, do not protect them. You'll regret it. The sheriff's face drained of color. He dropped the radio to the ground, his hand trembling. And then, from the trees behind us, came the sound of howling. Not wolves. Not coyotes. Something else. Something that made every bone in my body go cold. The howls echoed through the trees, rising and falling like the cries of something half animal, half human. The sound made my skin crawl. And for a moment I thought my heart had stopped beating altogether. Emily pressed against me, her glowing wrist trembling in my grasp. Jacob's knuckles whitened as he clutched the hammer tighter, trying to be brave though I could see the terror in his eyes. Sheriff Collins spun toward the darkness, shotgun raised. His voice was grim, steady but lower than before. Those ain't wolves. Anna's eyes filled with fear, her lips moving in silent prayer. Daniel's jaw tightened as he muttered. They've unleashed the hounds already. The hounds? I echoed, my throat dry. What do you mean hounds? Daniel turned toward me, his voice sharp and urgent. We need to move. Now. The howls grew louder, closer. Branches cracked. Leaves rustled. The forest seemed to bend with movement all around us. Then glowing eyes appeared in the treeline. Pairs of them. Yellow. Red. Dozens. Emily whimpered and buried her face in my shoulder. Jacob stepped forward, despite his shaking legs, placing himself between us and those eyes. The first creature stepped into the clearing, and my blood ran cold. It looked like a wolf, but stretched wrong. Its limbs were too long, its jaw too wide, its teeth like jagged shards of glass. Shadows clung to its fur like smoke, twisting and writhing. And when it opened its mouth, the howl that came out wasn't a howl at all. It was a scream. The sheriff fired his shotgun. The blast echoed like thunder. The creature staggered but didn't fall. Instead, it snarled and lunged forward. Run! Daniel shouted. We bolted, stumbling through the trees. Emily clung to my hand, her glowing wrist lighting our path in frantic pulses. Jacob swung the hammer at branches in our way, his breaths ragged. Behind us, the hounds gave chase. Their claws tore through the earth, their snarls shaking the night. Sheriff Collins fired again and again, reloading as fast as he could, his voice barking orders. Keep moving. Don't stop. One of the hounds leapt, aiming for Jacob. I screamed, but at the last second, Jacob swung the hammer with desperate strength. It connected with the beast's skull, and it shrieked as smoke poured from its wound. It collapsed in a heap of shadow before dissolving into nothing. Jacob froze, staring at the hammer in shock. I killed it. Daniel grabbed his shoulder, shoving him forward. You didn't kill it. It can't be killed. You only slowed it down. Keep running. We burst into a clearing where the sheriff's truck was still parked, its headlights cutting through the night. Daniel yanked the driver's door open and shouted, Get in. We piled inside, hearts racing, breaths ragged. Emily sobbed in my arms, Jacob panting as he clutched the hammer like it was his lifeline. Sheriff Collins slammed the truck into gear, tires screeching as we sped away down the dirt road. Behind us, the hounds poured from the trees, their glowing eyes shrinking in the rearview mirror, but not disappearing. They were still chasing. The truck rattled over rocks and roots, the headlights bouncing wildly. Anna prayed under her breath. Daniel clutched the dashboard, his face pale but determined. I held Emily close, kissing her hair as her glowing wrist flickered. It's going to be all right, baby. I've got you. Grandma's here. But deep down I wasn't sure. And then, just as I allowed myself a breath of relief, the road split ahead. Sheriff Collins swerved hard left, only to slam on the brakes, because standing in the middle of the road was a figure. Tall, cloaked, waiting. The same man who had fallen off the cliff. Alive. And smiling. The tires screeched, the truck shuddered, and for a moment I thought we were all going to slam through the windshield. Sheriff Collins cursed under his breath, gripping the wheel so tight his knuckles turned white. There he was, the cloaked man, the very same one I had seen fall from the cliff hours ago. His body had shattered against the rocks. I was sure of it. Yet here he stood. Tall, unbroken, calm, as if death had politely stepped aside to let him pass. His eyes glowed faintly beneath the hood, two burning coals fixed on us. His smile was slow, deliberate, cruel. Emily whimpered and clutched my arm tighter, her glowing wrist pressing into my skin. Jacob lifted the hammer, though his hand shook. The sheriff raised his shotgun through the open window. "Move aside," he barked. The man did not move. Instead, he lifted one pale hand and traced a circle in the air. Sparks crackled, golden and red, swirling like fireflies. Within seconds, a glowing symbol shimmered before him, the same shape that pulsed on Emily's wrist. Her skin flared in response, the glow on her wrist intensifying. She gasped, yanking her arm close to her chest, tears spilling from her eyes. "Grandma, it hurts. Drive," Daniel roared. Sheriff Collins floored the gas pedal. The truck lurched forward, roaring straight at the man. But just as the bumper was about to hit him, he vanished. Gone. Like smoke whisked away by the wind. The truck barreled through the empty space where he had stood, the road stretching dark and endless ahead. But my relief lasted only a second, because in the rearview mirror, I saw him again, standing in the middle of the road behind us, that same cruel smile painted across his face. I shivered. He hadn't chased us. He hadn't needed to. He wanted us to know we could never escape him. Emily sobbed harder, her wrist glowing so bright now it lit the inside of the truck. Jacob wrapped his arm around her protectively, though his own face was ghostly pale. Anna's voice shook as she whispered, "It's starting. They're awakening." Sheriff Collins growled, slamming his hand against the steering wheel. "Somebody tell me what the devil is going on before I lose my mind." Daniel finally spoke, his voice grim and low. "Those children are not ordinary. They were hidden here for a reason. A dangerous reason. And now their time has come." Emily lifted her tear-streaked face, her eyes pleading. "What do you mean our time?" Daniel's gaze softened with sorrow, but he didn't answer her. The truck rattled on, headlights sweeping across the lonely dirt road. The howls of the hound still echoed faintly in the distance, though farther now. For the first time in hours there was a fragile sliver of calm. I leaned against the seat, clutching Emily, my mind a storm. Could it be true? That they weren't just children? That everything, the boat, the men, the chase, had been leading to this? I closed my eyes, trying to steady my breath. But then, the truck jolted violently. Metal screamed. Tires burst. We were thrown forward as the vehicle spun out of control. And when it finally skidded to a halt, half-tipped into a ditch, the sheriff cursed. The front tires had been shredded. Not by rocks. Not by potholes. By spikes. A trap. And as the dust settled around us, figures stepped from the trees. Dozens. All wearing black coats. We were surrounded. The truck hissed and groaned, steam rising from its broken hood. My chest heaved as I clutched Emily to me, my heart beat so loud I thought it would shake the windows apart. Through the cracked windshield, I saw them. Dark figures slipping from the trees like shadows coming alive. Dozens of them. Each cloaked, silent, and moving in perfect unison. Jacob pressed his back against the door, hammer gripped tight. His breathing was ragged, but his eyes blazed with the same fire I had seen when he swung at the hound earlier. Emily whimpered, her glowing wrist trembling against my arm. The glow had grown so strong that the inside of the truck flickered like candlelight, painting the terror on her face in golden shadows. Sheriff Collins cursed under his breath, fumbling to reload his shotgun. Too many, he muttered, more to himself than to us. His hands shook, but he kept moving. Daniel leaned forward from the back seat, his face grim. They've been waiting. This was no accident. They set the trap for us. Anna clutched the seat, her lips moving in desperate prayer. And then, one of the cloaked figures stepped closer. Unlike the others, he pulled back his hood. His face was pale, sharp, almost too perfect. His eyes, cold gray like steel, locked onto Emily. She awakens, he said softly, his voice carrying like smoke across the clearing. The light returns. Emily whimpered, burying her face in my shoulder. The sheriff shoved open his door, shotgun raised. Not one step closer, he barked. His voice was strong, but I could hear the tremor beneath it. The man only smiled. You are outnumbered. Outmatched. Give them to us. And the rest of you may leave unharmed. Never. I snapped before Collins could speak. My voice cracked with fear, but I meant every word. They're mine. You'll never take them. The man's smile deepened. A grandmother's love. Fierce but foolish. He raised a hand. The cloaked figures around him moved as one, stepping closer, their boots crunching the gravel. Jacob sprang forward, hammer raised. Stay away from my sister. The man tilted his head, as if amused. Brave boy. Before Jacob could strike, the sheriff fired. The shotgun blast roared, striking one of the cloaked figures in the chest. The figure staggered, then straightened. The wound sealed instantly, as if it had never been. I gasped. The sheriff cursed, reloading. The man smiled wider. You cannot kill what does not belong to your world. The figures closed in, their shadows stretching across the headlights, swallowing us in darkness. Emily's wrist burned hot against my skin. She cried out, clutching it with her other hand. The glow grew brighter and brighter, until it was almost blinding. The man's eyes widened for the first time, his calm mask cracking. It's too soon, he hissed. A shockwave exploded from Emily's wrist. The truck windows shattered. The ground trembled. The cloaked figures were thrown back like leaves in a storm, their bodies flung into the trees. Silence fell. Smoke and dust hung in the air. Emily slumped against me, her body trembling, her wrist still glowing faintly. Grandma, she whispered weakly. What's happening to me? Before I could answer, before I could even catch my breath, a new sound cut through the silence. The beating of wings. Heavy, powerful, coming closer. And when I looked up through the shattered windshield, my blood froze. Something enormous was descending from the night sky. The night air shook with the sound of wings. Not like the flap of birds. These wings were heavy, leathery, and powerful. Each beat rattled the trees, scattering leaves like confetti in a storm. Emily clung to me, trembling, her glowing wrist pressed to her chest. Jacob crouched beside her, hammer raised, though his eyes were wide with awe and terror. Sheriff Collins swore under his breath, lifting his shotgun again, though we all knew it would do little good. From the clouds above it descended. At first I thought it was a plane, the shadow was that massive. But then the moonlight struck it and my breath caught. It was no machine. Its wings stretched wider than the sheriff's truck was long, each membrane glistening like black glass. Its body was twisted, part man, part beast. Its torso broad and muscled, but its head was wrong. Horns curved from its skull, and its eyes glowed like molten fire. Its claws dug furrows into the earth as it landed, the ground trembling beneath the weight. The cloaked figures who had been thrown aside by Emily's light began crawling back to their feet. But when the beast's eyes swept over them, even they faltered, lowering their heads in reverence, or fear. What in God's name? Collins whispered. Daniel's face was pale, but his voice was steady. Not God's. That is one of theirs. A guardian. Guardian. I snapped, holding Emily tighter. That thing looks like a monster. Daniel's jaw tightened. To us maybe. But to them it is a protector. It has come to escort the children. No. I shouted, my voice raw. They're not going anywhere with that creature. The guardian's head tilted, and for a moment, its burning eyes locked with mine. A chill swept through me, as if it could see not just my fear, but every memory, every secret I had ever carried. Emily whimpered, clutching her glowing wrist. Grandma, it's calling me. Her glow pulsed brighter, in rhythm with the beats of the guardian's wings. Jacob grabbed her other hand, shaking his head furiously. Don't listen to it. You're not going with them. His voice cracked and tears welled in his eyes. The guardian opened its mouth. The sound that came out was not a roar, not a growl, but a voice deep, echoing, layered with tones that felt older than the earth itself. The time is near. The light must be delivered. The cloaked man, the one who had smiled at us on the road, stepped forward from the wreckage of trees. He bowed his head slightly toward the guardian. We have prepared the way. But she awakens too quickly. We must contain her. Contain. The word slipped from my mouth before I could stop it. The cloaked man's cold gray eyes flicked to me. If her light erupts before the appointed hour, it will tear the veil apart. She will burn herself, and this world with it. No, I whispered, shaking my head. You're lying. But deep down I saw the fear flicker even in Daniel's eyes. And that terrified me more than the beast, more than the cloaked men, more than all of it. The guardian spread its wings, the wind blasting against us so hard it nearly knocked me back. Emily cried out as her body lifted slightly, her wrists glowing like a beacon. And then, Jacob leapt. With a cry that was part fury, part desperation, he swung the hammer with all his strength at the guardian's claw. The hammer connected with a sickening crack. The guardian roared, a sound that shook the earth. Its claw snapped back, black ichor dripping from the wound. Jacob landed hard, gasping, the hammer trembling in his hands. "Stay away from my sister," he shouted, though his voice broke halfway. The guardian's burning eyes turned on him, its mouth curling in something that looked like a smile, but one filled with hunger. It raised its other claw high, the talons gleaming in the moonlight. And with terrifying speed, it swung down toward Jacob. The guardian's talons sliced through the air, gleaming in the moonlight. "Jacob!" I screamed. Time slowed. I could see every detail. The way Jacob's eyes widened but he didn't flinch. The way Emily's wrist flared brighter as though her very soul was fighting to protect him. The way Daniel's hand twitched like he wanted to move, but knew it was hopeless. The claw came down. And then everything exploded in light. A blinding flash burst from Emily's wrist, brighter than headlights, brighter than the moon itself. It wasn't just light. It was force raw and wild, slamming against the guardian's chest. The beast howled in fury, staggering back. Its massive claw missed Jacob by inches, carving a trench in the dirt where he had been standing. The ground split, rocks flying, trees shattering from the impact. Jacob tumbled backward, clutching his hammer, gasping for breath. I thought I was dead. Emily collapsed against me, her little body shivering, her wrist smoking as though it had burned itself from the inside. "Grandma! I can't stop it!" The guardian growled, smoke rising from its chest where Emily's light had struck. For the first time I saw fear in its glowing eyes. It wasn't invincible. The cloaked man snarled, turning on the guardian. "Do something! Before she destroys us all!" The guardian spread its wings wide, its voice thundering. "She cannot be destroyed. She must be bound." And then it lunged. Not at Jacob. Not at me. At Emily. It was too fast, too strong. Before I could even move, before the sheriff could raise his gun, the guardian's talons closed around her small, trembling body. "No!" I screamed, clawing at its arm, but my hand slipped against its rough, scaly skin. Jacob swung his hammer wildly at its leg, but it barely noticed. Sheriff Collins fired shot after shot, but the bullets sparked uselessly against its hide. Emily's terrified scream tore through the night as the guardian lifted her high above the wreckage of the truck. Her glowing wrist lit the air like a beacon, casting wild shadows over the trees. "Grandma!" she cried, reaching for me with her free hand. I reached up, my fingers stretching, my heart tearing in two. "Emily! Hold on!" But she was rising higher and higher, the guardian's wings beating the air. The glow of her wrist cutting through the night like a star being stolen from the earth. And then, in one terrifying sweep of its wings, the guardian took off into the sky, carrying Emily with it. Her screams echoed as she vanished into the clouds, her light flickering against the dark. I fell to my knees in the dirt, my hands shaking, my chest heaving with sobs. Jacob dropped his hammer, his face pale, his lips trembling. "They took her. Grandma. They took Emily." Sheriff Collins cursed, slamming his fist against the broken truck. "We're not letting them get away with her. We'll hunt that beast down if it's the last thing we do." But Daniel's face was dark, his voice quiet, heavy as stone. "If the guardian has claimed her, then she is being taken to the place where the truth will be revealed." I looked up, my tears burning hot against my cheeks. "Then we go after her. No matter what. We get her back." Daniel's eyes flicked to me, sorrowful. "Do you understand what that means? To follow them is to walk into their world. Few who cross that line ever return. I clenched my fists, trembling but firm. I don't care. She's my granddaughter, and I will not let her be lost. As I spoke, the cloaked man stepped closer, his cold gray eyes gleaming. Then you will walk into the fire, and you will burn with her. Before I could respond, the earth beneath us began to shake violently. Cracks tore through the ground, spreading outward like lightning. And from the fissures, something began to crawl out. Not men. Not beasts. Things made of shadow, their bodies twisting and writhing, their eyes glowing red as embers. Dozens. Hundreds. And they were crawling straight toward us. The ground split wider, the cracks glowing faintly red as though fire lurked just beneath the surface. From the fissures, the creatures crawled, long-limbed, twisted things, their bodies like smoke-given bone. Their faces had no mouths, only hollow pits where eyes should be, glowing faintly like embers in a dying fire. They moved fast. Sheriff Collins swore and pumped his shotgun, firing into the mass. The blast tore through one of the creatures, scattering it into wisps of smoke, but two more clawed their way out to replace it. Jacob snatched up his hammer again, standing in front of me, his hands trembling but firm. "Grandma, get back!" Anna screamed, clutching Daniel's arm. "What are they?" Daniel's face was pale but steady. "Shades. Born of the rift. If they touch you, they will tear pieces of your soul away." His words sent ice through my veins. "Pieces of your..." Before I could finish, one of the shades lunged. Its arms stretched unnaturally far, smoky claws reaching for Jacob's chest. He swung his hammer with a desperate cry, the metal connecting with a crunch that echoed like a thunderclap. The shade burst apart into black smoke, vanishing into the night. But more were coming. Dozens. Collins fired again, his voice hoarse. "We can't hold them here. We've got to move." I clutched Jacob's arm, forcing myself to breathe. "But where? We can't outrun them." Daniel's eyes flicked to the treeline. "There's an old tunnel beneath the ridge, an escape route built long ago. If we can reach it, we might survive." "Might," Anna cried. He didn't answer. The shades surged closer, their claws dragging across the dirt, leaving trails that hissed like acid. The air grew heavy, suffocating, as though each breath was being stolen from my lungs. Jacob grabbed my hand. "Come on, Grandma. We've got to run." I stumbled after him, Anna and Daniel just behind us. Sheriff Collins backed away last, firing at every shade that got too close, shouting curses that were drowned in the chaos. We ran. Branches whipped against my face, my lungs burned, but I didn't stop. Behind us, the earth hissed and cracked, the sound of claws on dirt chasing us like a storm. "Faster," Daniel urged, pointing ahead. "The tunnel's just beyond those rocks." We burst through a tangle of brush, and there it was, an old stone arch built into the hillside, half buried by vines. Its black mouth yawned open like a grave, but between us and the tunnel stood 5 shades, taller than the rest, their glowing eyes fixed on us as they spread their smoky arms wide, blocking the way. I skidded to a stop, my chest heaving. "We'll never get through." Collins raised his gun, but Daniel grabbed his arm. "Bullets won't hold them. We need something stronger." "What?" I cried. "What could possibly?" Suddenly Jacob staggered forward, clutching his wrist. Not his wrist, Emily's. The faint glow had spread to him, too. His skin shimmered in the dark, pale light pulsing beneath it like veins of fire. He looked at me, terrified. "Grandma, it's happening to me too." Before I could answer, one of the shades lunged at him. Jacob screamed, and the light inside him exploded outward, just as Emily's had. A shockwave of brilliance tore through the clearing, slamming into the shades. 3 of them dissolved instantly, their smoky bodies ripped apart like paper in the wind. The others reeled, their forms flickering wildly. Jacob collapsed to his knees, gasping, the glow fading but not gone. His hammer clattered to the ground beside him. I dropped to his side, clutching his face. "Jacob! Jacob, are you all right?" His eyes flickered open, glowing faintly. "Grandma, what's happening to us?" Before I could answer, before Daniel could even speak, the ground shook again, harder than before. And from the darkness of the tunnel we were running toward, something else began to emerge. Not smoke, not shadow, A figure. Tall. Radiant. Its body glowing like molten silver. Its face hidden in blinding light. And when it spoke, its voice rolled through the night like thunder. They are not yours to claim. The glowing figure stood tall, its light washing over the forest like a sunrise tearing through the night. The shades shrieked, their smoky bodies writhing as they staggered backward. They hissed like water on hot iron, clawing at the air as though the light itself burned them. The sheriff froze, lowering his gun. What in God's name? It isn't God, Daniel whispered, his voice trembling. For the first time, his certainty seemed to waver. It's one of the others. The figure raised its hand, and the shades nearest us evaporated into ash, just gone like they had never existed. The others fled, sinking back into the cracks in the ground, howling as they disappeared into the darkness. Silence fell. The figure's glow dimmed just enough for us to make out its shape. It was tall, human-like, draped in robes that shimmered like liquid silver. Its face was still hidden in brightness, but its voice, deep and steady, rolled through the air. The children are marked. The guardians have no right to them until the appointed hour. I held Jacob close, my heart pounding. The guardian took Emily. Please, you have to bring her back. The figure's head tilted toward me. The girl is in their hands. They believe binding her will save them. But she is not the only one. His gaze fell on Jacob. My stomach dropped. I pulled him closer, shielding him as if my arms could protect him. No. You're not taking him. Jacob's faint glow pulsed under his skin again, his eyes wide. Grandma, it knows. Daniel stepped forward, his voice sharp. Are you with them, or against them? The figure did not move. We are neither. We are keepers of the balance. But the scales are breaking. Anna clutched my arm. Balance? Scales? Speak plainly. Are you saying both kids are in danger? The figure's light flickered, and for a moment I thought I saw its face. Kind, sorrowful, ancient. Danger, yes. But also destiny. They are the vessels. Without them, the rift cannot be sealed. Sheriff Collins growled. Destiny be damned. Those are kids. Human kids. And I'll be 6 feet under before I let anyone use them for some cosmic nonsense. The figure turned toward him, the glow in its chest intensifying. Your defiance is noted, mortal. But the choice is not yours. The sheriff tightened his grip on the shotgun, even though it was useless. Try me. Before the standoff could explode, Jacob groaned, clutching his chest. His glow flared again, brighter than before, pulsing like a heartbeat. He doubled over, gasping. Grandma, it hurts. I held him, panic flooding me. What's happening? What's wrong with him? The figure's voice rumbled. The bond has awakened. His twin is calling for him across the veil. If he resists, it will tear him apart. Twin. The word rang in my ears like a bell. Of course, Emily and Jacob. Not just siblings. Twins. 2 halves of the same light. Jacob's body shook violently, his glow pulsing faster, his breaths ragged. Daniel's eyes widened. If she is in their hands and he is bound to her, then he will follow, the figure finished. Jacob screamed. His glow burst outward in a wave that knocked us all to the ground. And then he was gone, vanished in the same blinding light that took Emily. I staggered up, clawing at the air where he had been. No. Jacob. Jacob. My cry echoed into the forest, hollow and helpless. The glowing figure lowered its hand, its light dimming. The twins are together now. Their path is sealed. I spun toward it, tears burning my face. Bring them back. Please. You can't just let them be taken. The figure turned slowly toward the tunnel, its voice heavy, final. If you wish to see them again, you must follow. And with that, it stepped back into the tunnel, its glowing form vanishing into the black. Behind us, the ground rumbled again. The shades were returning. We had only seconds to decide. The earth trembled harder now, cracks splitting wider behind us. The hiss of the shades grew louder, their red eyes sparking in the dark like coals in a furnace. They were pouring out again, faster this time, clawing and shrieking as they swarmed toward us. Sheriff Collins fired another blast into the horde, but it barely slowed them. We're out of time. Either we go in that tunnel, or we die out here. Anna clung to my arm, her face pale. But what if it's a trap? What if that glowing thing is no better than the guardian? Daniel's jaw was tight. It's not about trust, it's about survival. We'll be dead in minutes if we stay here. I looked toward the tunnel, its black mouth gaping. My heart pounded so loud I thought my chest might burst. Emily was gone. Jacob was gone. Both pulled into some nightmare beyond my reach. And now, this was the only road left. I swallowed hard, gripping Anna's hand. We're going in. We don't have a choice. The sheriff cursed under his breath, then nodded. Fine. But I'm keeping my gun pointed forward the whole way. We stumbled into the tunnel just as the shades closed in. Their claws scraped the stone arch, their hisses echoing in fury, but they did not cross the threshold. It was as if the tunnel itself was keeping them out. Still, I didn't breathe easy. The air inside was cold, damp, smelling of earth and something metallic. The walls were carved stone, ancient, covered in markings I didn't recognize. Strange symbols, spirals, and faces. Faces that seemed almost alive in the glow from Daniel's lantern. Our footsteps echoed. Every sound felt too loud. Anna whispered, trembling. Where does this go? Daniel's voice was grim. Down. Always down. We walked in silence, each step taking us deeper into the dark. My mind kept replaying Jacob's scream, Emily's outstretched hand. They were out there, scared, alone. And I had to reach them. After what felt like forever, the tunnel opened into a massive chamber. My breath caught in my throat. It was a cavern wider than a cathedral, its ceiling lost in shadow. Pillars of stone rose high, carved with more of those strange markings. And in the center, a pool. Not water. Something thicker, darker. It glowed faintly, like molten silver swirling in endless patterns. The sight of it made my stomach twist. Standing at the edge of the pool was the glowing figure. Its light reflected across the surface, distorting into shapes I didn't understand. You came, it said, its voice echoing through the cavern. I stepped forward, fists clenched. Where are my grandchildren? What have you done with them? The figure turned toward me, its glow dimming slightly, and for the first time I saw its eyes. Sud. Human. They are not harmed. They are beyond this veil, in the hands of those who would twist their light. My voice cracked. Then take me to them. The figure looked at the pool. This is the way. But understand, it is not a path you return from unchanged. Once you step through, the world you know will never be the same. Sheriff Collins muttered, Lady, this is insane. We don't even know what that stuff is. Daniel knelt near the pool, his hand hovering above it. It's a crossing. I've read of such things in the old texts, a threshold between worlds. Anna shook her head violently. We can't. We'll drown, we'll die. Her voice cut off, because from the surface of the pool, something began to rise. A hand. Pale, glowing faintly like Jacob's skin had. Then another. Then a face, Jacob's face. But it wasn't him. The thing that pulled itself from the pool looked like Jacob, yes, but its eyes were wrong. Hollow, shining with a silver that wasn't human. Its mouth twisted into a smile that sent ice down my spine. Grandma. It whispered, its voice Jacob's but not. Come join us. I stumbled back, my scream echoing through the cavern. The thing climbed out of the pool slowly, its movements jerky, unnatural. It looked like Jacob, his face, his hair, even the clothes he had been wearing when the light swallowed him. But the way it smiled made my stomach churn. Its eyes glowed silver, too bright, too empty. I staggered backward, shaking my head. No, that's not my Jacob. Grandma, it said again, its voice lilting, mocking. You left me. You let them take me. But I'm here now. Don't you want to hold me? Sheriff Collins raised his shotgun in an instant. That ain't the boy. That's something wearing his skin. The thing tilted its head, still smiling. Why so hostile, Sheriff? I thought you were sworn to protect children. Its voice slipped, deeper now, echoing strangely around the chamber. I felt cold crawl up my spine. Anna clung to me, trembling. Grandma, it's not him. Don't let it trick you. I pressed a hand over my heart, fighting the ache. My Jacob, my sweet brave boy, was still out there. This was a lie. A shadow meant to break me. The glowing figure at the pool's edge finally spoke, its voice low and heavy. This is a reflection, a lure cast by the guardians. Do not touch it. Do not believe it. The false Jacob's grin widened. Its body began to shift, stretching unnaturally tall. Its arms elongated, its hands dripping silver liquid like melted metal. Its face cracked down the middle, splitting into two jagged smiles. I gasped, stumbling backward. Dear Lord! It lunged. The sheriff fired, the blast echoing like thunder. The creature staggered, its chest blowing open into a spray of silver light, but it didn't fall. Instead it laughed, the sound high and sharp like glass breaking. Bullets cannot end what is already yours. It hissed, lunging again. Daniel shoved me aside, swinging his lantern. The glass shattered against the creature, flames flaring briefly as oil splashed across its body. It shrieked, its silver skin sizzling, but still it advanced. Anna screamed. The glowing figure raised its hand. Enough! A beam of light shot from its palm, striking the creature in the chest. The thing convulsed, shrieking in Jacob's voice, before collapsing into the pool. Silver ripples spread outward, swallowing it whole. Silence. I fell to my knees, trembling. My heart was hammering so hard I thought it might break me. The figure turned to me. Do you see now? The guardians will twist what you love most. They will use your own blood against you. This is why time is short. I lifted my head, tears stinging my eyes. Then where are they? Where are my grandchildren? The figure pointed toward the pool. Its silver light flickered brighter. Beyond. Both children wait within the heart of the rift. But if you do not cross now, they will not return. The sheriff cursed. You expect us to jump into that hell water? Daniel's jaw tightened. If it's the only way, then yes. Anna shook her head, pale and panicked. No. No, no, no. I'm not doing it. I can't. We'll die down there. But even as she spoke, the pool began to change. The surface rippled, swirling faster, glowing brighter, until shapes formed beneath it. Emily, Jacob, their faces just beneath the surface, eyes closed, mouths open as though drowning. My breath caught in my throat. Oh God, they're sinking. The glowing figure's voice thundered. Choose. Step through and face the rift, or lose them forever. I didn't hesitate. I took one step forward, then another. My toes reached the edge of the pool, and just as I was about to step in, a hand shot out of the silver and clamped around my ankle, hard, pulling me in. The hand yanked me into the pool before I could scream. The world vanished in a rush of silver light. I felt like I was falling, spinning, drowning all at once, my lungs burning for air. My hands clawed through the glow, desperate, until I hit ground. Not water. Not earth. Something in between. I stood in a place that was nowhere. An endless plain of silver mist, stretching forever in every direction. And there, standing side by side, were Emily and Jacob. Grandma! They cried, their voices echoing like bells. They ran into my arms, and I held them both so tight I thought I'd never let go. Tears streamed down my face, soaking their hair. You're safe, you're safe. I whispered over and over, rocking them. But the mist began to stir. Figures rose from it, shadows tall and faceless, their bodies twisting like smoke. The guardians. Their whispers filled the air, sharp and cold. The vessels belong to us. The balance demands it. I clutched the children tighter. You can't have them. They're not yours. The glowing figure appeared again, stepping from the mist, brighter now than ever before. Its voice shook the ground. The choice is not theirs. It is hers. Me. I looked up, trembling. What choice? The figure's eyes burned like stars. If you wish the children to return, you must give up your place in their world. One life for two. Stay here, and the rift will close. Go back, and they will be lost forever. My heart stopped. I looked at Jacob and Emily. Their faces, their tears, their tiny hands clinging to mine. They had their whole lives ahead of them, lives they deserved to live. I smiled through my tears, brushing their cheeks. My sweet ones, you were never mine to keep. You were mine to love, to protect, to guide. And that's what I've done. Grandma, no. Jacob sobbed. Come with us. Emily shook her head violently. We can't leave you here. Please. I kissed their foreheads, one after the other. Listen to me. You'll be strong. You'll live good lives. You'll love each other. And you'll never forget that love is stronger than fear. That's the lesson. That's what I leave with you. The mist began to pull them away, their bodies glowing brighter, rising like stars. Their cries echoed, but I smiled through the ache in my chest. Go home, babies. Live. That's all the gift I ever wanted. The last thing I saw before the light swallowed them was their hands reaching for me. And then they were gone. I stood alone in the silver plain as the guardians faded, their whispers dying. The glowing figure bowed its head. You have chosen well. They will live. And though you remain, your love will echo in them for all their days. The light grew brighter, swallowing everything, until there was nothing. Just peace. And that, my dear viewers, is the end of my story. My name is Margaret. I'm speaking from North Carolina, and I'm 78 years old. If you enjoyed this journey with me, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification button so you never miss another story. And before you go, tell me in the comments, from which part of the country are you watching? Thank you, and remember this: love is the only thing we truly leave behind. Broken heart.